So, on my recent solo trip this past fall, I went into the trip initially making a really set itinerary. I tend to be a very structured and organized person, and I wanted to go in feeling like I was doing enough, like really taking advantage. And then someone gave me the advice, let go of the shoulds. Just enjoy. Just go in and do whatever you want to do. There's no shoulds, there's no shouldn'ts. This is your trip. And something just clicked when they said that. And I let go of the shoulds. I just soaked up the towns, went to cafes, ate good food, soaked up the sun, took in the culture, because that's what I value when I travel. Meeting great people, walking around, soaking it all in. I let go of the should narrative that I needed to check all these boxes on this trip just because I was absorbing that from the external and what people were telling me. On all my prior trips, I feel like I was constantly cramming in all of the museums, all the tourist sites, all the things that I genuinely often didn't really want to be doing, but I felt like I had to because people are like, oh, you have to do this, or you have to go there, or you really should do this, you really should do that. And most of them were just things people were telling me I should do or had to do rather than things that I actually wanted to be doing. I honestly feel like so much of my life is controlled by shoulds or shouldn'ts. And I wanted to do a whole episode on it because I think a lot of us feel controlled and consumed by these narratives. A lot of us are victims to these shoulds and shouldn't statements. They take over our decision making and control the way we choose to live our lives. Are you feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the external pressures and expectations that the new year brings? Maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck in your current situation or feeling anxiety about falling behind. The good news is you are not alone. So many others, myself included, are feeling the exact same way. The further good news is therapy can help. A therapist can help you distinguish external pressures from your own internal values. Develop a timeline that feels authentic to you rather than one imposed by society. Process any feelings of inadequacy or comparison and whatever else you might be feeling or experiencing. Whatever challenges this new year might bring up for you, BetterHelp, who is sponsoring today's episode, can help make it easier. BetterHelp is a therapy platform that is entirely online, making it both comfortable and convenient. Simply fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And don't worry, you can easily switch therapists at any time if it's not the right fit. Start fresh at any day of the year with BetterHelp by clicking the link in the show notes or go to betterhelp.com/unfulfilled to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Hey guys, and welcome to Fulfilled. I am your host, Camille. Thank you for tuning in to today's solo episode. If you're new here, welcome. Whether you are new or returning, I'd be so grateful and appreciative if you just took one moment to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening to the show. This will give you access to episodes every single week, every Monday and Thursday when they come out, both solo and guest episodes, all around topics to help you live a more fulfilling life. And let's dive into today's topic. So today we're talking about the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. How many times throughout your day do you find yourself saying, I should do this, or I shouldn't do that? And do you notice that it comes along with this feeling of guilt? Like, unless you do that thing or unless you don't do that thing, you feel bad about yourself, or you feel like you're in the wrong. You feel like you have to do it because you're replaying that narrative in your head that, like, I really should go to the gym. I really shouldn't eat that. Or I really should go to bed right now, but I want to watch another episode of Netflix. There's endless shoulds and shouldn'ts that replay in our minds. I'm sure you can think of some that frequently come to mind for you. I honestly feel like so much of my life is controlled by shoulds or shouldn'ts. And it's something I've been really working on this past year. And I wanted to do a whole episode on it because I think a lot of us feel controlled and consumed by these narratives. A lot of us are victims to these shoulds and shouldn't statements. They take over our decision making and control the way we choose to live our lives. If you feel like you're constantly doing things that don't feel aligned with you, maybe you don't really want to be doing, but you feel like you have to do it. This voice keeps coming up telling you that you should or that you have to, or you really want to do something, but this voice keeps coming up that you shouldn't. And this voice makes that thing feel more like an obligation, like it has power over you rather than feeling inspired or naturally drawn towards or away from something. If this sounds familiar, then you too might be living based on these shoulds and shouldn'ts, and you should keep listening. So some of the ways I constantly find myself telling myself this should and shouldn't narrative: health and fitness. I should work out every day, or I should or shouldn't eat that, or I really should be healthier, or I really should have gotten more sleep last night, or maybe finances. I really should save more money, or I really shouldn't spend money and go out to that dinner, or I really should cook in more and not eat out. Social life experiences. Oh, I really should go to that party. I really should be going out and social more on weekends, or I really should go travel there because I feel like I'm going to be missing out if I don't. I really really should have more friends. I really shouldn't be drinking as much on the weekends. Again, the list can go on and on. Think of whatever should and shouldn't statement tends to linger in your mind, tends to come up every single day, and tends to dictate and determine how you choose to live. All of these should and shouldn't statements are ultimately things that we just absorb from the external. We absorb them from our friends, from society, from social media. We're a sponge for all of these things that are telling us what's good and what's bad. And it's creating these should and shouldn't statements in our mind. Maybe our parents told us we should or shouldn't do things growing up, and it's just stuck with us all of these years. Whether we realize it or not, we've allowed these ingrained beliefs to impact how we choose to live majority of our lives and so much of our day to day. But it's crazy that when we do recognize how much of this is external and how much isn't actually aligned with our values and isn't maybe something that we want or something that we need to abide by, or maybe these statements that we're telling ourselves aren't even true. Maybe we're just used to habitually having these thoughts and following them without questioning whether they serve us, without questioning whether that's something we want to do, or whether that's in alignment with our values in this phase in life where we are today, and whether it's in alignment with what we need today or with this phase in life, or if we're just used to going along with these should and shouldn't statements and being controlled by them. Living by these should and shouldn'ts is not a genuine or enjoyable way to live. It feels forced, right? It's like we have this list of good and bad in our minds that we've absorbed from social media, that we've absorbed from the external, that we're forcing ourselves to live by without actually questioning whether it's true to us and whether it's necessary for us and whether it's aligned with us, whether it even serves us, or whether it's even true. Maybe these statements we're telling ourselves are totally untrue, but we heard it once and it just stuck. And the truth is, the more we replay those should and shouldn'ts in our mind, the more it's just going to take away from the happiness of the decision we ultimately are going to make. So let's say you do want to eat the cookie. Are you going to enjoy that cookie if you're telling yourself in your mind constantly, I really shouldn't be eating this, or I really should have chosen to eat something healthier? If you've already decided to eat the cookie, eat the cookie. So to escape these shoulds and shouldn'ts, we have to question them. So how do we break free from these should and shouldn'ts, right? How can we start to wonder whether they're actually serving us, whether they're actually something that we value, whether there are statements or whether there's something we've absorbed externally? We can start to question whether these beliefs that we're living by, this narrative that we keep replaying in our mind, is true, and whether it actually serves us, and whether it's in alignment with what we value and what we want to do and what we feel like will bring us further along the path that we want to be walking down. Because again, it might be the case that we're so used to thinking this way, we're so used to clinging to these thoughts when they come up that we don't even think twice. They're just habits. And maybe we're so used to living a certain way and telling ourselves this narrative in our mind that we've never really paused to question whether they're valid and whether there's truth to them. And most importantly, whether it's making us feel fulfilled or whether it's making life feel forced and far less enjoyable. So we can ask, why do I think that? Do I actually believe that, or did I just pick up that thought somewhere whenever those should or shouldn'ts arise? When we do this, when we start to question these thoughts that come up, we start to create so much more freedom and space to live our lives in a way that we actually want to. It starts to pull us away from that autopilot we might have been living in before. That autopilot of just going along with the shoulds and shouldn'ts without even questioning it, of just letting the thoughts kind of control us and determine the choices that we make. So to dive in deeper to this, I'll share a couple examples of how I've started to question the shoulds and shouldn'ts in my life, and maybe some of this will resonate. So on my recent solo trip this past fall, I went into the trip initially making a really set itinerary. I tend to be a very structured and organized person, and I wanted to go in feeling like I was doing enough, like really taking advantage. And then someone gave me the advice, let go of the shoulds. Just enjoy. Just go in and do whatever you want to do. There's no shoulds, there's no shouldn'ts. This is your trip. And something just clicked when they said that, and I let go of the shoulds. On all my prior trips, I feel like I was constantly cramming in all of the museums, all the tourist sites, all the things that I genuinely often didn't really want to be doing, but I felt like I had to because people are like, oh, you have to do this. Oh, you have to go there. Or you really should do this. You really should do that. And most of them were just things people were telling me I should do or had to do rather than things that I actually wanted to be doing. So I ended up going into the trip, not going to any historical sites or museums that really didn't interest me. It didn't really buy into all the tourist sites. I just soaked up the towns, went to cafes, ate good food, soaked up the sun, took in the culture, because that's what I value when I travel. meeting great people, walking around, soaking it all in. I let go of the should narrative that I needed to check all these boxes on this trip just because I was absorbing that from the external and what people were telling me. I reminded myself that this was my trip and I could make it whatever I wanted to make it. There's no shoulds and there's no shouldn'ts, especially on a vacation. Like, why was I trying to make such a to-do list? And honestly, it was my favorite trip ever. And it's crazy that I've never really given myself that freedom and permission before to let go of those should narratives. I truly lived so much of my life based on those shoulds and shouldn'ts. I feel like it was because I lacked that sense of confidence and self-love and even understanding of myself to know what I valued and what I truly wanted. So I just soaked up whatever others projected and thought was right versus wrong and what I should do versus shouldn't do. I was definitely seeking that approval and external validation from friends, from my parents, from people in my life. So it was so freeing to let go of this narrative and let go of any shoulds and shouldn'ts on this trip. Another personal instance I know a lot of you will relate to: social life on weekends, right? For so long, so in the whole first half of my 20s, I would let my entire weekends be determined by shoulds. I was constantly telling myself, I should go out tonight, go to that party or bar with that group of friends because that's what I should be doing in my 20s, right? Like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Or I should cram in as many social plans all weekend to check all the social boxes, when really it was just leaving me feeling exhausted on Sunday. It's like I was basing my worth on how fun and social my weekends were because I had these should and shouldn't narratives ingrained in my minds that that's what I should be doing. I shouldn't take time on weekends alone to myself. That would make me a loser. It's like I based my worth on how many people did I see, how many boxes did I check, how much validation did I seek from going out to the bars and having these surface level conversations. So it ended up making my weekends feel like they were taken over by these surface level interactions. And they didn't really make me feel good or connected. It felt forced. It felt like checking boxes. And I didn't feel like it's what I genuinely needed or wanted. It was because I was leaning into those shoulds that I believed in my mind, that I think a lot of us are telling ourselves in our minds, like we should be doing what everyone else is doing. It's so hard to go against that. But personally, I know I'm not alone here. I never enjoyed going out late at night to the bars. Like, it never made me feel fulfilled. It never honestly was ever that much fun. And I value quality connection. I feel like every connection, every conversation you have in a bar in that setting is so surface level. You're likely never going to see those people again. And if I'm going out with close girlfriends, why can't we hang out at a reasonable hour and not in a sweaty bar that smells like stale beer and where you can't even hear the other person talk? It's just really not my vibe. But for so long, I went along with it because I told myself I should. I told myself that's what I was supposed to be doing. And on top of that, I'd forego a good night's sleep. I'd wake up feeling hungover. So I wasn't having that much fun. I didn't really enjoy it or get genuine connection from it. And I was so tired the next day. So I started to question this behavior. I started to ask, why do I keep telling myself this is what I should be doing if I genuinely don't enjoy it, if I don't get value from it, if it's not something that really serves me? I started to question that should that I was telling myself. There's that should part of me that was telling myself, oh, you're going to miss out if you don't go. But it's like, okay, what am I missing out on? I've gone time and time again. It's proven to be something that I don't enjoy, and it's proven to be something that I always regret. So that should statement wasn't true, right? Like, I was telling myself this statement that wasn't true to me. It wasn't aligned for me. It might be aligned with some people, but not for me. And a lot of these shoulds are just shoulds and shouldn'ts that the majority of others are doing that we just internalize and absorb. But we can start to question them. So this message that I absorbed that if you're in your 20s, you need to cram in as many social plans on weekends and go out at night as much as possible and drink on weekends, yada, yada. It's just what everyone else is doing. It was ingrained from society and what you see on social media and all of that, but it didn't serve me. So I freed myself of that should narrative, and now I no longer lean into that. I really know what best serves me on weekends. I obviously go out and have fun and still find that balance, but I know what serves me, and I question the shoulds and shouldn'ts that come up that might tell me otherwise, because I've learned more about my truth and what feels aligned and true to me. So questioning these should and shouldn't narratives, they allow us to take control back over our decision making, over our lives, because when they come up, we don't have to believe that they are entirely true. We can remind ourselves that, that might be a habitual thought that I'm just used to believing, something that I picked up along the way that I just took to be true. But let's ask, is it true? Why am I thinking that? Why shouldn't I eat that? Why shouldn't I stay in and get rest tonight? Why should I go do that thing? Why should I spend time with that person? Or why shouldn't I? I honestly believe we should or shouldn't do anything. It's either we want to or we don't want to. It's either that's aligned or that's not aligned. The shoulds and shouldn'ts are things that I think are projections from the external, things that we've picked up that might not be true to us. But we can constantly assess every day and every phase in life what our desires and values are, letting go of those shoulds and shouldn'ts that we we might have leaned into previously to instead get real with ourselves. Constantly check in and ask what we actually need and what we actually want. So for example, if you say, I really should go to the gym tomorrow morning, and that's aligned with your fitness goals, if you're on this plan that you're excited to stick to, that's fantastic. But then you want to go to the gym tomorrow morning. It's not like, oh, I have to go to the gym tomorrow morning. You want to. It's aligned with your values. That's the decision you're making. You want to go to the gym because it will make you feel good and it's aligned with your goals and your values. That's it. You don't say, I should go to the gym because all my friends are going to the gym and I feel like I have to. Or I should go to the gym because I have this belief that I have to work out every single day. It's in alignment with your current desires and goals and values. Or let's say you do want to go out on a Friday or Saturday night because you've been craving being social and you haven't had that much fun lately and you just really need to blow off some steam this weekend and you don't mind waking up a little bit tired the next morning. That's fantastic. Then you want to go out. It's not, I should go out. And you're forcing that and holding it over your head. We can reframe to say, that's what I want, or that feels aligned. And that's what I need right now, rather than just sticking to this strict list of good and bad, of shoulds and shouldn't. We can dive in a little deeper and ask these questions of why and is it aligned? Why am I telling myself that? Is it true? So next time you find yourself saying should or shouldn't about anything, again, bring those constant shoulds and shouldn'ts to mind that you find yourself susceptible to. Question that. Get curious as to why that thought's coming up. Is it something you picked up along the way, or is it actually true to you? Is it just something that you see everyone else doing and you've kind of just jumped on the bandwagon? And is it serving you? Is it in alignment with your values? Is it something you actually want to be doing, or are you just doing it to check a box? There are no shoulds and shouldn't. So if you're doing something to check a box and there's no deeper value to you or meaning beneath that, if it's not bringing you further along the path that you really want to be walking down, why are you doing it? You have the freedom to question this way of thinking, to take back your precious time, to focus your energy on the things in life that you really value. You don't have to be a victim to these shoulds and shouldn'ts. We can start to question the way that we think and recognize that a lot of them might not be serving us. Either you choose to do it or you don't. Keep it as simple as that without attaching that should or shouldn't narrative. Be confident in the decision you make and reframe it to not make you feel like you're forcing yourself to do something or not do something, but you want to because it's aligned and because you genuinely do or do not want to be doing that. And as we get better at doing this, as we start to identify those shoulds and shouldn'ts, those habits, we can start to slowly unlearn them and take control over our decisions, over our time, because it's all so precious. So let go of the shoulds, let go of the shouldn'ts. And thank you for tuning into today's episode of Fulfilled. If you liked the episode, please leave a rating and review wherever you are listening. Again, it'll help in my efforts so much to grow the show. And I'll see you all again soon on your journeys to feeling fulfilled.